So when we deal with linear inequalities, we show our answers in several different ways. Since it's not just something like x equals 2, just one exact number 2, we need to represent inequalities with a range of values. So we're going to do an example of a couple situations. So let's say that we have the inequality x is greater than -4. Okay, x is greater than -4. So x can be any number, any value greater than -4. So let's go back to set notation. A little review of that real quick. So set notation is one way we can show our answers. Probably the least common that we'll actually do, but good to review it anyways. So x such that x is greater than -4 would be how we represent that inequality in set notation. Now on a number line, and a lot of times when we get our answer, we're going to represent our answers on a number line. Because again, it's not just one number, it's a whole set of values. So I'm going to put a number line here. I'll put a 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. So x is greater than -4. So we need to show that we want everything in this direction. Okay, now we need to stop right when we get to -4. Now what we do when it's greater than or less than, we're going to use a parenthesis. So in this case, I'm going to put a parenthesis at -4, and then it's going to be everything to the right, shaded. So that is how on a number line we're going to represent x is greater than -4. The reason we use a parenthesis is because we don't want to include -4 as an answer. If anybody's done this before, you maybe in the past have learned using an open circle and then showing that way. That's fine too if you want to use an open circle. But I'm going to use a parenthesis. The book uses a parenthesis, and it's a better transition into the next notation we're going to use, which is called interval. Interval notation. Okay, so when we use interval notation, it kind of looks like the number line. We're going to start with a parenthesis, put the number -4, comma, so this is saying -4, 2, and in this case it keeps on going forever, so I'm going to use the infinity symbol. So this interval notation says that x is anything from -4, not including it, but -4 to infinity. Okay, so now let's do another one. X is less than or equal to 3. X is less than or equal to 3. Okay, so I'm going to skip set notation for this one. I think you guys can figure that one out. On a number line though, number line. So on a number line, I'm going to put my 0, 1, 2, 3. So less than or equal to 3. Now here I want to include 3, and I'm going to go less, smaller. So I'm going to be going to the left. So it's going to be all of shading in all of this to the left. But if I want to include 3, I use a bracket. So bracket. Okay. So parenthesis is going to be for less than, greater than, or bracket's going to be for less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And I'll note that on the bottom in a second. So now interval notation. Okay. Now with the last one, think about, just kind of like reading a book. We go from left to right. So if I start at the left, my first values are at -infinity. And then I'm going until 3. So -infinity, comma 3. And now just like on the number line, I'm going to end with a bracket to show that I'm including 3. Okay, so let me put this where it's like in black as a definition. If I use greater than or less than, then I'm using, for interval notation, I'm using either a parenthesis that way or that way, depending on which way I'm going. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, I use brackets. So that's going to be on a number line or an interval notation. And just back to how I said an open circle, if it's greater than, less than, you can use an open circle, that's okay. If it's or equal to, maybe if you've done this in the past, you've used a closed circle to show that you are including that. So that's fine too if you use that notation on the number line. But an interval notation, you have to use either parentheses or brackets. Okay, let's do one more. So here I'm going to have what's called a compound inequality. I'm going to have two parts to this. So -8 is less than x is less than or equal to -1. So now I'm saying any x between -8 and -1. So, and I'm not including -8, I am including -1. So on a number line, so here's my 0, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, -8. So I'm between -8 and -1. So at the -8 I'm going to use a parenthesis. At the -1 I'm going to use a bracket. So it's saying anything that's greater than -8 but less than -1. So it has to fit right in between those. So that's what it's going to look like on a number line, just between those two. So now then with interval notation, kind of just like reading the number line left to right. Parenthesis -8, comma -1, bracket. So to show that I'm not including -8 and I am including -1. And just a heads up, this interval notation is something, if you keep going on in math, you will use all the time, over and over in every class. So definitely something to get used to, as we use it a couple times in this class.